A, B, C. A always, B, C closing. Always be closing. Always be closing.
When we started this, we had purpose, we had goals. I wanted to give you the world. How did we lose our way?
Because there's only one thing in this life that counts. Get them to sign on the line that is dotted.
You'll never get the answers you're looking for. You'll never get it out of me. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Indie Brew Review. I'm Joe Compton, and I've got a very interesting and unique brew review for you in this episode. Hopefully you got a chance to see me preview at Joe's Bar this incredible cider, and yes, it's the LOCUST cider. And we're going to talk all about it right here on the Indie Brew Review. So yeah, this is LOCUST cider from the LOCUST Cider Brewing Company, who also, they do a lot of different ciders. They also do quite a bit of different beers as well. This is the original dry, and it is the cider that started it all for them. It is 6% alcohol by volume. It's won several awards, including the Bronze Glint Cap Award in 2017, the Seattle Wine Award in 2016, and the Glint Cap Award in 2016 as well. It is gluten-free, and this is a really cool company that was started by two brothers, Jason and Patrick Spears, and they're based out of Woodinville, Washington. And they specialize in ciders. It's an interesting fact that I'm pulling right off their website here is that Washington produces 60% of the apples in the United States, but there's still a major shortage of cider-specific apples. So Jason and Patrick set out to put an innovative spin on the classic cider by making methods to bring out the best in the everyday apple. They begin with cull apples that are too small, misshapen, or otherwise undesirable to grocery stores, and use those for the base of most of their ciders. In early 2019, they started a brand new brewery born from the partnership with Dirty Bucket Brewing Company, now all under the name of LOCUST Cider and Brewing Company. They decided to throw out the conventions and start over with a new and unique approach to brewing, inspired by cider making methods, delivering easy-to-drink, light-bodied beer or respecting the traditions, but not being anchored to them. They have several tap rooms all over Washington and a couple elsewhere. So if you're in the Washington area, they've got 3 tap rooms in Seattle specifically. There's one in Tacoma, one in Walla Walla. So basically near all the areas, Spokane and Woodinville. And then if you're in Texas, if you're in the Dallas area, you should check out their brewing company. They're in Fort Worth. And if you're in the Denver area, the Colorado area, they have one in Boulder, which I would imagine is pretty near to CU. So they're out there. They're doing their thing. It's great. So let's talk about this. First off, the packaging, as you can see, is just absolutely exquisite. It's colorful. It obviously caught my eye right on the shelf. I picked it right up. I said, "Oh, this is very interesting," and then I read about it. I'm not much of a cider guy. I don't drink a lot of ciders. I've had ciders in the past. A lot of what I find with ciders is that they can be really, really dry, and they can be really, really strong, and they kind of give you kind of this heartburn feel, if not fully give you heartburn, and they dry you out really, really quickly. With this cider, I will say there is some dryness to it, but the thing I really, really love about this cider is that there is a sharp, bitter taste to it. It's got this nice tone of this interesting. I'm a big cherry guy. I like a lot of sour notes and things that are sour, and this has those notes in it. But what it doesn't do is overpower you with the sourness. That's some cool thing. This is a very uniquely balanced. It's robust, and it has a lightness to it all in the same breath. I know it's almost an oxymoron, but it really does. It has this kind of, it's not watered down, but it has this nice, refreshing hydration element to it where it smooths out the drink. So when you take a sip or you take a swig, you're not overpowered by an aftertaste or a front taste or something that will linger. What you get is this kind of just this smooth, like ocean wave that goes right through your palate. If you like a brut champagne or a dry champagne, it's kind of got that idea to it, without the really strong alcohol notes. You know how champagne has that, because of the bubbles and the carbonation, it has that kind of lingering alcohol note to it. Well, this doesn't do that. Again, there's enough hydration through the watering, whatever is filtering through this cider, to give you a wash away effect and not have that lingering taste. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to definitely try. They've got different flavors. They got like a watermelon and the cherry, and I would imagine like the watermelon and the vanilla bean. They have a vanilla bean. They have a strawberry hibiscus, a honey pear, a dark cherry, and a dark maple. And I would imagine like the honey pear and the strawberry hibiscus and even the watermelon are going to have a little bit more sweetness to them. A vanilla bean sounds kind of interesting. I don't know if I've ever seen a cider with that in it. But yeah, so I'm going to definitely check these guys out more. And they've made me a cider fan. So congratulations, guys. And I hope that you guys go check them out. I got this at a package store. Obviously I live in Northern California, so to get this from Washington, I'm more than confident that you're going to find it in your package stores. And if you don't, ask for it. I'm sure they can manufacture it and bring it to wherever you are. So definitely go check that out, and hope you enjoy it when you do. And we'll see you again on another Indie Brew Review.
Hello, this is Julia here with this month's review for GoIndieNow. So this month I read The Tear Collector by Shawn Burgess. And this is a thriller, and it's a good size one. Comes in 300 and some pages. I'm not sure exactly what the word count is, but let's get started with the review. here's the blurb. When a young autistic girl goes missing from a small Appalachian community, the residents of Harper Pass descend into chaos. Brooks Raker and his friends stumble across a police investigation, and as they dig deeper into the mysterious events, the boys realize the fate of their missing classmate pales in comparison with the evil lurking in the shadows of a quiet little town. With 4 boys who believe something sinister is at work and an ambitious reporter breathing down his neck, Detective Holt of the Harper Pass Police Department must confront his doubts and follow the evidence. A chain of disappearances and suspicious deaths leads Holt to the doorstep of mysterious and reclusive Professor Wadlow, who may know exactly what has come to collect in Harper Pass. Can the detective and the boys work together to unravel the dark secrets of Harper Pass before these secrets devour them all? So we'll start with the review now. The story starts out with Brooks joining a group of his friends in their neighborhood gang. Though for the most part, these kids are pretty innocent, so I don't mean gang in that way. I just mean like gang of kids who hang out. They get into trouble like all good kids do, but they're not the bullies and beaters that Sammy and his crew are. In fact, they start a feud with Sammy and his crew when incidents between them begin to escalate. Bullying moves to broken bones, throw in a missing girl and some blood found near a backpack, and things are starting to happen in Grief Hollow. Strange characters from town start appearing, showing up at the search for the missing girl. One goes home with a finger, while another gets tacked in the hollow with his dogs. What creature is fierce enough to leave that kind of damage, and what exactly was it that Brooks saw in the woods? The characters in the story are really great, and their characters that the author develops amongst the young kids is well done as well. There's behind-the-scene hierarchy and play for leadership and successfully integrating in as a new kid. So you can see how each kid plays their parts and kind of manipulates the others to get their way. So it was a really interesting dynamic of a group of 4 boys who are friends but are also naturally going to not agree on everything, and to get everyone to do what they want them to do. You kind of see the interplay between them and like how they think to, get their way, whether it's, I call the dare, or you promised, or we never leave a man behind. They all have their kind of ways of getting what they want when they're investigating this missing girl from their class. So that was really interesting to see like the interplay between the boys. I didn't grow up with a bunch of boys, so I thought that was a really interesting insight. A big complaint I had for the story was the pacing was just too slow for me. We had a kid missing right in the beginning, but no info on her or a death or anything else happening until about 100 pages later. So things were happening in the story, but it was much too slow for my personal tastes. So horror or thriller like this book is, it should see faster pacing than this particular story accomplishes. But it does paint a nice picture of the setting, so the world building is working. They're slow to reveal any clues on what is really going on, whether it's the black oily substance found on the finger or the creature that can appear as anything. So we have this idea that there's like supernatural elements going on, but we don't really see it except for a brief glimpse of Brooks seeing something in the woods. And it's not really like followed up on for another good chunk of pages. So we know that there's this tear collector in Grief Hollow, supposedly, but we have no idea what it is for a very long time. Also, the author chooses strange words for certain characters to say and think in, like having a kid say that his skin is abraded when he falls and gets road rash on his elbows. I don't know any kids who thinks in those terms casually. That was just one example of times when I was reading and I was kind of like, this sounds like the author got lost a little bit in the thesaurus trying to describe things rather than thinking how the character would describe things in his own words. Another complaint of mine is that this is in present tense, which I find is not usually done in a way that I enjoy. So here it reads awkwardly many times. I found myself startled out of the flow when I was reading because all of a sudden the tense would jump out at me as being awkward or just jarring in a sense, because it was in present tense and it wasn't reading as smoothly as I like present tense to read. But I will say that the story wasn't predictable, partly because we weren't getting a lot of information about the supernatural elements, but I did not find myself predicting what was going to happen next. So that is very refreshing when you're reading a book. So overall, if you're looking for maybe something that's a bit more complicated for a horror or a thriller type of book, then you can check out The Tear Collector by Shawn Burgess. So that is my review for this month. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a great month.
Hi everyone, my name's Shawn Burgess. I'm a speculative fiction author out of Jacksonville, Florida. My debut novel, The Tear Collector, releases this December. It's a paranormal thriller. It's really fast-paced with a lot of twists and turns in it. So I think it's something that readers are definitely going to enjoy. So I'm looking forward to that release. Today I was going to share a little bit with you from the book, a little excerpt from chapter 4, and just to give you a little bit of setup, this involves the protagonist, Brooks Raker. He's met two new friends who he really wants to be a part of their little circle of friends, and he's on the way to meet them, and Sammy Needles, the town bully, essentially prevents him from taking the road, so he's taking a shortcut through the woods. So I'll just pick up kind of in chapter 4 here and read you a little excerpt. Twigs and macerated leaves crackle as I walk underneath the tall trees. Sunlight shines through the openings in the canopy, hitting the forest floor like small spotlights. The absolute silence of the woods rattles me, an eerie feeling collecting in my bones. Gnarled tree trunks spiral skyward, sunlight blotted out by an awning of leaves, casting looming shadows that slither through the timbers. Tiny hairs, as if pulled by static electricity, rise on my neck. Someone's watching me. The pressing weight of unseen eyes sends a shiver to my spine. I cease walking. There's a huge rustle of leaves and a brown flash launches from behind a cluster of trees. I let out a stifled scream, spin my head around, and stumble backward. I trip on a root and fall. The hind legs of a deer bound away from me, its white tail a flash of cotton against a juniper pelage of forest. My heart rumbles in my chest, threatening to pry itself loose from its fittings. Holy crap. Calm down, calm down. Breathe. I take a deep breath and lift myself off the forest floor, brushing the leaves from my shorts and shirt. Large twigs snap behind me. Sammy's found me. I wheel around to face my attacker. But it isn't Sammy, it's Margot. She's in a dirty white nightgown, with no shoes, and she's covered in mud to her ankles. My mouth lolls. I tilt my head and squint my eyes at Margot. She's bobbing her head like she always does. She's very different from the other kids, even goes to a different part of the school that T calls school for the specials. But she's smart too, figures things out, puzzles, riddles, complicated things. What in the world is she doing out here in the woods by herself? Never seen her without an adult outside of school. Her head stops rocking, she lifts it, and her eyes lock with mine. Margot, are you lost? It's coming. My eyes widen. Margot rarely speaks. Her focused eyes tunnel through me in the direction of Grief Hollow. Coming? What's coming, Margot? The Collector. The Collector is coming, and Grief Hollow will be its home. Grief Hollow? What? Wait, Collector? What is the Collector? It's coming. Margot raises her arm and points behind me in the direction of Grief Hollow. I blink my eyes several times and my face contorts. I turned to scan the forest. What in the world is she talking about? There's nothing there, only forest. Margot, maybe I can help you get back. She's gone, vanished into thin air. I swiveled my head in every direction, but there's no sign of her. There's only silence once again. Margot? My voice trembles. There's no response. Margot, this isn't funny. Still, there's nothing. No sound, no movement, nothing. So, again, this is the Tier Collector. It releases on December 2nd. It's available for pre-order now through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, as well as Target. So go to your favorite site and pick it up. And I do hope that you enjoy the book. Thanks, everyone.
In the backwoods of Arkansas, along the banks of Boggy Creek, a local legend tells of a strange creature, a giant of the woods, half man, half beast. And now, the American Yeti Project has sent a research team to investigate the beast of Boggy Creek.
Salidas here, and today I am reading an excerpt from my newly released Agents of Asset Book 4, Method to Her Magic. So let's get started. Alright, this one's coming from Chapter 2. Something major must have happened for Ava to call in the cavalry like this, Gray commented as they waded through the mass of agents in the hallway. Everyone headed towards the conference room, which had filled to standing room only by the time they made it inside. Ava stood at the head of the room, behind a wooden podium. A projector had been set up to the back wall. It silently played clips from the current morning's news. Traffic at a standstill, people crying, children slapping their hands against the windows of a bright yellow school bus. A strange headline scrolled across the bottom of the screen. Magic school bus or elaborate prank? That can't be good, Sage whispered to Gray. His eyes, like all the others in the room, had been glued to the ridiculous images being presented on the screen. How the hell had she not heard about this? She'd been so preoccupied with getting her paperwork in that she hadn't bothered to check in with the news. Well, no wonder Ava had called in every available agent. This was a clear breach of magical security. Mumbles in the room echoed her thoughts. Fellow agents wondered who would be stupid enough to pull off a stunt like this. More discussed loudly the effects that this would have on Asset's credibility with the magical community. They were supposed to be preventing revelations of real magic like this from ever reaching human awareness. Ava stood at the podium, but unlike the others watching the projector screen, she was watching the room. Her keen eyes absorbed the reactions of her agents, allowing the horror to sink in before she began to address them. Sage hoped that Ava had a plan of attack. She couldn't begin to comprehend how to deal with something this ridiculously damning. If the news was broadcasting it, no doubt it had already gone viral on social media. Real magic out there for all to see. The most incriminating clip of all came from an eyewitness who captured the video on their cell phone. A school bus suspended in the air, traffic at a standstill all around it, motorists and pedestrians both stopping to gawk at the sight. Shocked murmurs continued to rumble through the room. "Pack it in here, we don't have time to dawdle," Ava addressed the people standing in the conference room doorway. As of 8:30 this morning, a bus carrying 50 children en route to its elementary school lifted 6 feet off the road. It remained suspended in midair for a full 20 minutes before returning to the ground. Upon its descent, a message appeared on the side of the bus. The projector screen next to Ava zoomed in on the side of a bus, and the Tree of Life, the symbol of the Terra race, looked as if it had been die-cut out of the bus. I don't need to tell you how dangerous this incident is to Asset. We all bear the mark, as well as those among us who have not yet been awakened. Our families, your children. We can't risk this mark being associated with such a public act of magical terrorism. Ava didn't have to speak loudly to be heard. The room had gone all but silent, as if everyone had taken a collective breath in anticipation of her next words. The image on the screen froze on the symbol. Sage looked down to the mark on her wrist. The cutout on the side of the bus matched in every single detail. Magic, no doubt about it. But how and why? It made no sense. Do we know if any Terra children were on that bus? An agent seated at the front of the room asked. Yes, Ava responded quickly. The parents have been notified, and a team has been dispatched for extraction. It shouldn't have struck her as odd. She'd grown up unaware of Asset's true nature, but hearing that there were other Terra children surprised Sage more than the images of the bus floating in air. Sage leaned in and whispered in Gray's ear, "How many Terra kids live here?" "A fair few, you'd be surprised. This job isn't exactly conducive to raising a family." Sage had commented more to herself than in response to Gray, but he had heard all the same and shot her a strange look of confusion. We have to repopulate somehow. Maybe to him it wasn't a big deal, but Sage couldn't imagine trying to raise a child while going on dangerous missions and fighting all kinds of crazy magic. Trying to play the loving mother while secretly putting her life on the line, returning home and helping with homework and social issues if that were the most stressful thing in the world to worry about. The secrecy had to be maintained even within the confines of the home. Never being able to talk about the cooler aspects of magic or prepare one's child for the dangers that they may one day face, how the hell had her mother pulled it off? Sage had been none the wiser until her mom died. She grew up perfectly normal. Well, normal as anyone can claim to be. Gray was still staring at her as if he expected some kind of a response to his previous remark. She had none. He didn't need to be privy to her internal freakout that she was having over the idea of more Terra children being out there. "You do have a point," he nudged her shoulder. "Children do pose an interesting problem at the moment." "You can say that again," Sage mumbled under her breath. She had never wanted to put her own kids through that. Scratch that. She would never have kids. So, we'll stop there for now, and I hope you enjoyed that little excerpt from the newly released Agents of Asset number 4, Method to Her Magic. Check it out, guys. It's available on all ebook platforms. It's also available in paperback. And if you would like a signed copy, you can always contact me at katiesalidas.com. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Do you know that guy? It's my boyfriend. Come on, honey. Rosie! Let's move a little faster, okay? He's not usually like that. He doesn't even mean it mostly. He can be good too. You're a long ways from home then. I told you I don't want any calls.
I would just feel better if we could call someone, you know? Call someone who knows about this kind of stuff. It's a lot, hey? Being a mom. So you got anybody looking out for you, Rosie?
I look out for myself.
And the baby?
You think you're better than me? You're not fucking better than me. I'm gonna protect him. No one's taking my baby.
I'm not trying to tell you what to do.
Then what are you trying to do?
I'm just trying to help.
I love you so. You'll always be Mommy's little guy.
Hello, friends and fans of the GoIndieNow network. I am the one and only Jason LaVelle. You might know me from such shows as Spilling Ink and The Raven. And tonight, I'm here to give you a little treat. I am going to be giving you a reading from a fantastic book by a fantastic author. And yes, I do love the word fantastic. It's fantastic. This is going to be a reading from Blood and Pitch by Rebekah Jonesy. And I think that you are really going to enjoy it. This land was made up of all the cultures of the world, and their beliefs had followed them over. Each person had their bias, which they applied to their situation and whatever they saw or experienced. This is going to be harder than chasing shadows. Those I can at least feel and catch, and there is an obvious rhythm to when and where they will be. This land is so foreign, I still do not understand what influences my people might have to deal with. The death metal, iron, is only one. The feel of her shadows moving closer to her than they had been all day caught her attention then, pulling her out of her scattered thoughts. Pitch was coming to her in a direct line. He wasn't rushing, so she didn't think there was any problem. Keeping her pace and course, she guessed they would run into each other shortly. Within a few minutes, the sounds of his large body pushing through the brush reached her ears as he came closer. She watched him as he moved up to join her and tilted her head to the side in a silent question. His legs were fully encased in her woven shadows that she had given to him. They made no sound at all and were invisible in the gloom. But his barrel chest, that looked like a mix between a walrus and a collie, with a short-eared equine head on top of the too long, spindly neck, made plenty of noise to make up for it as he crunched up his evening meal. Feathers stuck to his mouth and showered through his thin lips along with his pointed teeth. He is easily the strangest Kelpie I have ever heard of or can remember. Even Mother never met one that acted like he does. All Kelpies could change their shapes, but Pitch seemed to have a wider range than most. He certainly enjoyed changing in strange and unique ways. "What has changed?" she asked him as she shrunk her shadows enough that he could see and scent her in the night as he slowed to a stop. With a well-rehearsed thought, her protective covering became a dark belt that wrapped around her flat stomach. Nudity was frowned upon among the humans, but never bothered the Fae. Jillian could not understand why they would be so offended by something as normal as a nipple or a lack of belly button. Pitch smiled and pointed at his chest, which shrunk down to the greyhound form it looked like when she had last seen him. Jillian sighed and laughed. "Ask a silly Kelpie, get a silly answer. Did you come see me to make that silly joke, or is there something else?" Pitch slowly rocked his head back and forth as if to say both, gently shrinking it down to match his body. If only greyhounds had giraffe-like necks. The tattered feathers fluttered down as the lips they clung to shifted. "And the other thing?" she asked. He finished shaking the rest of his meal from his muzzle and dropped down abruptly. Folding his legs under himself, he finished by curling his neck around his body. He wanted to sleep, and was pretending to already with a whistling, off-tune snore. "You can sleep in the bag. I will carry you, and she started to offer. Pitch snaked his head up and wrapped it around her leg. Using his neck, which he still hadn't reverted to normal size, he pulled her over to him until she toppled backwards. Laughing, she dropped onto his suddenly thicker body, which cushioned her as he molded himself around her. She reminded him with a laugh, "I do not need to sleep. I can keep moving us forward." Pitch shook his head along her calf. It was oddly soothing. She still didn't see any logical reason to stop. This time with a shadow-covered foot tapping the side of her head softly, but with enough force to rock it. She took a moment to think about that. "Oh? You want me to go through the memories I have stored in my head, but not gone through yet?" It was a wild guess, but his nod proved she had guessed correctly. "I did the same while I was training with my father. This is a good plan. Jillian settled herself against Pitch, who kept the same shape and size, making him a perfect pillow. Closing her eyes, she let herself fall back into memories. The night was quiet around them. Pitch shifted around her, getting comfortable while checking the lay of the land where he had stopped them. Seeing that all was well and she had taken his advice, he closed his eyes and went to sleep. Well, guys, that was an excerpt from Blood and Pitch by Rebekah Jonesy, and I hope you enjoyed that reading. I certainly enjoyed reading it for you. So take care, everyone. We'll see you later.
I've spent ages going over my dad's work since he disappeared. All the far-out crazy theories. And now, I'm going back to the one place I swore I would never return to. My hometown, Shasta, California, land of the weird.
People are scared, say they're seeing things. Some think it's aliens, some say it's the military. It's complicated. 20 seconds away?
From what? Someone's watching us.
Hello? Guys?
My dad was right!
Brought us out here to die.
Welcome back to GoIndieNow. I'm Okubo here, and today I'm reviewing the film called Exit Strategy. It's a film by Travis Bible, and again, you can find this on the channel of Metal on YouTube, and all the details are down below. This is a great film. For those that know me, know how much I love my brother, and for the close friends that I have, know that I live in Japan while my family is in the States, and I haven't hugged my brother going on, wow, I would say close to 21, 22 years. It was the last time I think all we did was shake hands and share a beer. But I'm very detached from my family in distance. I have my personal family, of course, but I'm talking about my brother, my two sisters, and mom. This film touches base with all of that, and it deals with the whole idea of time travel. It is a time travel film, and I tend to like time travel films just because they work well with when they're done well. When they're done well, they work well with the story that they're trying to build up on. So yeah, this is a great film. The ending is extremely moving, and there's one line in this film that it is a short film, and it's one line that just it hits you right there. And I don't want to be like Dr. Evil, like, oh, my boy, not like that, but it is such a moving line that was so well written and executed so well by the actors. So yes, I recommend this movie again. Exit Strategies by Travis Bible. Check out the links below. This is Gino Okubo at GoIndieNow Film Reviews. Remember, it's always time to go indie now.
What if you could live the same day over and over and over again? But no matter what you did, you could never change the ending.
All right, ready to save the world? You want to time travel back, try that again?
No.
Greetings, fellow humans. This is 00 Bananas, also known as JD Estrada, your indie music reviewer for GoIndieNow. This is some pretty trippy music. It's pretty dreamy, it's pretty eclectic, and it's also from Puerto Rico. So if you like balloons, you might like this balloon. The detail is that this balloon, since it's from Puerto Rico, it's not written with 2 L's and 2 O's. It's actually B-A-L-U with an accent and N. Formed in Puerto Rico, they now reside or are based mainly in Brooklyn. This is a very fun band. It's very dream popish. Some elements have that feel as if it's like a fusion between music and video game music. And this is a band that I've actually been following for a long time. I know the band from actually college. I knew some of the band members way back when. I picked up an EP, liked it, saw them live, liked it, lost contact. Stuff that happens. You lose touch with people, and then you wonder what they do. Well, they've done a lot of music. One day I was wondering, what's been? Maybe they have something on Spotify or Bandcamp. I first checked Spotify and I saw a bunch of EPs that they actually released, and they actually released an album last year. This is from that album. This is actually Años Atrás from the album Prisma Tropical. You see it has that Cocteau Twins feel to it, dream pop, synth pop. It's just cool, fun, relaxed music to enjoy. But in a live setting, they're actually pretty cool, and they do some quirky stuff. They use accordions, they use different type of percussive instrumentation. A couple of things that they do is actually program something like a little robot to do a beat or to release like a hit, and they put different stuff for it to bang. It's really cool. You can actually check videos out about how they do what they do. But I don't know why I decided to check what they were up to, and suddenly I saw that they released the album, that they've done this. I learned that the lead singer, accordion, and I think she also plays violin in the band, Angelica, has also scored a lot of things for film. That they're a pretty cool indie band in Brooklyn, and they were actually on a show on KEXP. I know that they're. Let me put another track, by the way, from that album. That album is great. Prisma Tropical from 2018. Very dreamy. There's a lot of layers to this, by the way, and I think that's why I like it so much. It's good music to write to, or if you need background music, but if you pay attention, you will also be rewarded, and I think it's a very unique thing to have as a band. But as I was mentioning, they also have a yet to be released Tiny Desk music on NPR, and I'm so happy for them because, as I said, I know these people from college, not all of them, but at least half the band I know from college. Super nice people, super humble, super talented, super brainy about music. And if you take the time to dissect everything that they're doing, there's a lot of method to their madness. And I think that's pretty cool. But something that's really interesting about this band is some of their older work. I think it's great music to write to and to just chill to. And actually, it's almost like video game music, which I love and I adore. I adore this feel of music. They've got a bunch of albums, they've got a bunch of EPs on Spotify, they're on Bandcamp, and I highly recommend them for several reasons. First off, good music. Second off, talented people. Third off, really nice people. Fourth off, indie. Fifth off, I think if you jump on the boat now, you're going to see something pretty cool. I'm not going to say that they're going to blow up, they're going to be in, Interstellar or anything, but they're going to get the reputation that they deserve. And it's really cool and very rewarding to see nice people that I've met in life make it to some degree. It's not that they haven't made it yet. They are already successful professionals in their own right. But to see them as a band having people say, oh, please come play a show. I like that. And I wish that upon pretty much every cool person that I've ever met. So, by all means, BALUN, not balloon, BALUN. Check them out on Spotify, check them out on Bandcamp, follow them on social media. Support indie artists that have good hearts and lots of talent. Until next time, cheers to you. It's always time to go indie now. And peace, love, and mackerels.
Hey guys, C.O. Cannon here from Fiction Atlas Press, bringing you another monthly marketing tip. Today I want to talk about something that might be a little bit uncomfortable for some of you introverts out there, but I myself am an introvert and I'm able to do it, so you might have to baby step into it. But I'm going to be talking about finding opportunities to get on blogs, to be interviewed, and to get on shows like GoIndieNow. So why would you want to get on these shows? I mean, especially if you're an introvert, what value is this going to give you, and how is that going to help your marketing? Well, for one thing, there's brand recognition, and that means that people recognize you and they know what you stand for. They know what kind of books you write. They recognize you. And one way to get people to recognize you is to get in front of them. If they've never seen you before, and if they've only seen maybe your book on a Facebook ad in passing, they may not remember you. They don't really have an impression of who you are. So that makes it harder to connect them in your brain. So when you go on a show like GoIndieNow, or on a blog and you kind of show your personality to your readers or potential readers, that's the way that you connect with people. And being authentic and connecting with people, as I always preach, is the best form of marketing. It is the most effective way to reach people and to advance in your writing career. Not just for the sake of advancement, but you will be, getting in contact with people who know things that you do not. And so, networking with different people in the community helps you grow your own knowledge and helps you market better. And of course, you find lifelong friends. But if you're really introverted, you might want to start out on a blog post. There's lots of bloggers out there. There's some that specialize in certain genres, and there's some that do all genres. You might want to just do a Google search real quick for book bloggers and then whatever genre that you write. There's all kinds of people on Bookstagram, which is Instagram, the book section of Instagram. You can search the hashtag book blogger. You can put in your genre to narrow that down if you need to. One thing you want to keep in mind when you're looking at these blogs is that some people have so many books on their to-be-read list that they're not going to get to you right away. Some people only take traditionally published authors. But for the most part, most bloggers will take an indie, especially if you've got a good blurb and a good cover. So making sure that you're following their guidelines and submitting something that they want to read is really important. A lot of these people will do author interviews with you. And if you also search author interviews on Google, you will be able to find some people in your genre that do that specifically. There are lots of podcasts who like to have indie authors on there. Again, Google is your friend. But again, going back to the point of why you want to do this is going to get your book out in front of a wider audience, and people are going to remember you. And when they remember you, they're going to go, oh, I meant to look up their book. I want to see what they're doing now. I want to go to their website, or I want to follow their blog. And connecting in this way is going to help you make more sales and more lifelong fans. So like I said, if you're introverted, you might want to start with the blogs and the author interviews that are written. All you do usually is get an email from the blog owner or the person who's doing the interview, and you just answer that in Word and send it back. It's really simple and easy. Then there's audio podcasts, and a lot of times you just get on Skype, or you get on, what's the other one, SteamYard, or different programs that you can get on and talk to these people. And they'll record it, and they'll edit it, and they'll put it up on their podcast, and you can share it everywhere. And so sharing it's going to help the podcast, and it's also going to help you get the word out. And then there's shows like GoIndieNow and the Fantasy Fiends podcast and the Writer's Edge and all these wonderful people that I have come to love. They do these wonderful YouTube sort of podcast panel shows and things like that. And they're really easy to approach. Go to their websites, talk to them on Facebook if you can. And these are not the only shows out there. There are literally hundreds of shows out there for authors. So find out their policies, contact them however they prefer, and say, hey, I would like to be on your show. And most of the time, you'll be able to get on a show pretty quickly and get to talk about your books and get to talk about the writing process. And again, you're giving a piece of yourself to the public, and you're inviting them to get to know you, and in turn they're going to be interested in your book. I know a lot of authors like Amy Peliquin and Joshua Robertson and Richard White and J.D. Estrada. All these people, I didn't know them before I started watching things like The Writer's Edge and GoIndieNow. And now I've picked up pretty much all of their books. I'm reading their books, I'm reviewing their books, and they've become great friends. So you'll be making contacts with other writers and networking and making friends and also helping sell your books. So that's like an added bonus. So that's my marketing tip for this month, is to put yourself out there, get on some podcasts, get on some YouTube shows, or if you want to start slow, do some author interviews. But put yourself out there so that people can find you. Okay, that's all for me this month. I'll see you next month. Bye.
Hey, this is Jason Morris. I'm a filmmaker from the Bay Area of California. I just want to thank Joe for inviting me on today and kind of letting you guys know what I do. I've been doing filmmaking for probably about 25 years or so. I started when I was about 16. And I did go to film school. I know there's always been a sort of, I don't know, a derogatory term, so to speak, and I agree with that. It's not for everyone. It's expensive, and you don't really get the hands-on, I think, that you need of being on set. So either way that you do it is totally fine. It just kind of depends on what your goal is ultimately. You know, if you want to work on Hollywood, and you know, film school might be a good thing. You'll learn all the lingo. You'll get some you know, your hands-on equipment and whatnot, but it won't be any real sort of world experience until you get out there and try to get a job. But you know, I dropped out of college. I just didn't see the purpose. Everything I was learning, you know, I could find in books, and I did. I bought tons of filmmaking books and read and decided, you know, I just need to go out and make a movie. I can use that money to actually shoot something than give it to, you know, a college. And that's what I did. I made my first big project was a web series called Millennium Apocalypse, and that was in 2003.
For centuries, man has awaited the end. Events have finally begun to unfold, and one woman with the ability to see things others cannot must stop Babylon's key.
any idea at all of all the things I've seen. Pain in my head. This burden I carry for you and for the world, and for what?
This is before YouTube. This is before Facebook. This is pre-web series. Like, nobody knew what a web series was. It was just sort of like this idea that I had come up with. I'm sure I wasn't the first one, but you know, it was slightly before or about the same time Rooster Teeth started doing the red versus blue kind of thing. And I believe that our web series was the first long-form episodic story that hit the internet. At the time, we had gotten over 200,000 views per episode, which is astonishing considering that there was no YouTube. That was all just you know, organic sort of traffic. We came out with a second season, which didn't do nearly as well, but it was 10 times better. It seems to be how things go sometimes.
There comes a time when the world must go on without us, when our mission in life ends. It is our memories and the legacy which gets left behind. The the relationships and accomplishments that we have achieved. It is when the soul leaves the body that we become truly free. It is only then that we become one with history.
Anyway, after that, I went and moved on to a feature film called Hell House. We just recently re-released it as The House on Devil's Road.
X marks the spot, Matt, where 10 years ago tonight, a young woman and her boyfriend were brutally murdered.
Their father had forbidden them to see one another.
And on that fateful, and for them final, 4th of July evening, he found them.
People say, when you park your car out here, it will start to move towards the house. They say it's the old man's ghost pushing the car just like it did 10 years ago.
I went down to the basement today.
Sweet pea. You weren't supposed to go down there.
She was gone. Whatever it was evil.
So after that, I just, went on my career, just kept making movies and working on projects for people. And, I'm 20-something years later, I'm still there doing the same thing, It's a passion. It's something I love to do and something I'll keep doing. I now run a company with some cool people at Resurrection Films. We have one of my main partners over in the UK. We have another person over in Washington, D.C., and a couple people spread out. But we just keep doing what we love to do and make projects that we like and hope that other people will like as well. We recently just finished a couple projects. This year's been fairly busy, actually. We finished up a documentary on a TV show that was canceled 20 years ago called Millennium that starred Lance Henriksen. It was created by Chris Carter from the X-Files, and we did a feature-length documentary on that TV show. We had everybody from the show interviewed, including Chris Carter and Lance Henriksen. It's worth checking out. It's called Millennium After the Millennium. If you guys are into sort of that darker television stuff, it kind of precursed all the current things like Dexter and Criminal Minds and things like that. I don't think if it was for Millennium, those shows wouldn't even exist today.
I believe that the show has a sort of timeless quality.
There's a reason we've chosen to tell this story, whether we know it consciously or not. We're trying to ask an interesting question by creating a monster.
You have this story you're trying to tell, and you serve it as faithfully as you can.
There was an integrity in Millennium. Now, 20 years later, we're seeing all the more reason to have integrity.
Every good show was a labor of love.
Again, it's articulated really powerfully in the Millennium Pilot that we all live in a bubble. We all live in our own yellow house.
I tried to see it through Frank's vision.
It was definitely a darker show than X-Files, but it had
this feel to it that I don't think any show had on TV.
I went to see the pilot at the Directors Guild, and it was just the most intense and kind of perfectly crafted thing I'd ever seen.
That pilot from Millennium sort of pushed the boundaries of that just about as far as you can push them.
It was kind of mind-blowing. I go, how are they going to get that on television?
You know, Millennium is so dark that that darkness darkens everything.
Darkness and showing the dead people were the two major problems Fox had with it.
It was a lot like making movies because they took a very filmic approach to it, and it didn't feel like directing an episode of television.
I think the visual design and cinematography is extraordinary. I think the performances are super, just like a beautiful, rock solid, very modern, timeless performances.
I do believe that there is a kind of impulse and a kind of torture that people feel and react on.
I mean, Chris is a modest guy in the sense that he would say, this wasn't the greatest show on earth. This was 50% some of the best shows ever been on television.
I got the sense that he wrote for the people who were playing the roles.
I think because it's one of the only pop culture documents that really deals with the millennium.
I mean, I think we all know we have the capacity for light and dark.
For me, the story process for good episodes was always as convoluted and crazy, and then finally you get inspiration from somewhere.
There's a mythology and there's an emotion, and it looked at some big questions, I think.
Really critical stuff is the storytelling. I think that's where you have the greatest influence.
I became increasingly open to the idea that there are things that I don't understand.
But all of the answers about what was happening to Frank Black, to Jordan, to the world itself were left unanswered.
Every show takes on a life of its own, but people come to work on it and they add to it in ways that you might not imagine.
There's a great deal of importance to getting the story right.
I think if we'd had another season after that third, we would have seen a lot more people be aware of the existence of the show.
You know, I think people still care about it after all these years.
My memories are about the content of the show, but they're really more about the content of the people.
Everyone treated me with such love and kindness and respect for just being a little kid.
I just loved it all. I really, really loved it all. I'd come back in a nanosecond to be in Millennium.
The things I remember about it, all the wonderful actors that have been on that show with me and working with me and all the adventures we had. And that's the big deal. I remember that.
The great tragedy of Millennium is that it ended before we finally knew where Frank was headed, what he was going to do.
Shows they're making now are drawing from those shows to do what they do now. They just took it to the next level, which if there was a rebirth of Millennium, they would too.
Real fans had a purpose, and they loved this show, and they loved it for reasons, and they still love it.
Not in any kind of Chris Carter universe would Frank ever surrender hope. He would never give up.
Because of X-Files coming back on the air, of course there are rumblings about Millennium because it was right on the heels of X-Files. If you did Millennium, it'll really kick butt.
Then we did a cool little short film called The Dark Road, starring John Tague. And that's a sci-fi film, sci-fi horror. And after that we did a comedy called The Curious Case of the Murder That Wasn't, which brings some older 80s iconic characters like Columbo and Jessica Fletcher from Murder, She Wrote, and Sherlock Holmes, and Mark Sloan from Diagnosis Murder together in one room. It feels like a fun comedic one-act play, kind of short film. And then we have another movie coming out. It's a feature film called Dark Winter, which is a sort of sci-fi horror. I wouldn't call it time travel exactly, but it has some elements like that. It's also got some monster movie sort of elements, vampires and whatnot. It's not a vampire movie, but you know, it's a sort of interesting take on world building for a series of films that we're wanting to do that are ultra low budget, kind of one room sort of concept films. And that's going to be coming out later, hopefully this year. And yeah, that one we're pretty excited about because it was a adventure that we shot in 6 days for about $1,500. And it's tough when you do a film like that, you know, and minimal crew, minimal cast, minimal locations, and to be able to bring that all together and see what it turns out like is pretty amazing, really, and I hope you guys enjoy it. But anyways, you guys can hit me up on Facebook if you want. Jason Morris, I think is my handle. I'll have to email Joe, let him know what it is. I can't remember. It's like remembering your own phone number. But I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is you guys want to. If you have questions about other stuff or want to check out our films, all right? I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks.
Thank you.